Hi, my name's Keziah Gibbons. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm the founder of the Guided by Keziah app. And this is this week's tarot reading for the week ahead. So I'm coming to you from the Algarve, where I am for the next couple of weeks. And as some of you know, I'm in the middle of a major transition process as I move from the Algarve, where I've lived for the last 8 years, back to England, where I'm from. So this reading this week is really inspired by that experience. So I'll talk you through the positions that we're going to have included in this spread. There are 5 positions. I don't have a whiteboard behind me because that's all packed up. So I will show you the cards one by one and link them together as appropriate. So the 5 positions, which are parts of the process which I'm experiencing at the moment. The first 2 are what you give up and what you gain. So I've been living in the Algarve for 8 years, and a piece of my soul is here and always will be here. So I found myself last night, just before sunset, because it's far too hot to do anything any earlier, cycling through the region, watching the sun setting over the vineyards and the olive trees and the cistus and all the other wonderful flora here in the Algarve, feeling this very warm breeze. And that's one of the experiences which I really, really love from here. And it's something that's going to be hard to say goodbye to. But I am moving to something that's right for me. So I've just flown in from York, where I'm moving to. And York is also somewhere that I grew up for part of my growing up. And it's a really special city. It's a very small city, very beautiful, very historical. And it's a city that, again, I feel very, very attached to and I feel at home in. And just in the few weeks that I've been back there, I've felt more at home than I have for a long time here, despite having this very deep connection with the Algarve. There's something that has just been home about coming back to York. And so there are wonderful things there. Sometimes in order to get wonderful things, we have to sacrifice something else. So those are the first 2 positions, what you give up and what you gain in any transitional process. The third position then is what I'm going to call wandering accent. So I grew up in the northeast of England, some of the time in York, but before that slightly further north. And at one time had a very strong accent, and then as I moved away and I started living in different countries and I needed people who were not necessarily first language speakers of English to understand me, my accent changed to accommodate that, and to the point where people guessing might say I'm from the south of England, which is not the case. And so what I've found, like the last few weeks when I've been in York, is I've got this really, really wandering accent. So I'm going from between several different accents. So I've been in York, I've been in Leeds, which are very close to each other, but have very different accents. Been in Bradford, which has another accent again. I've been in the northwest, where I've never lived, but the accent is familiar to me. Speaking to people from different parts of the country, and my accent has just been all over the place. It's quite amusing. And so this is a settling process, this is a refinding, a re-identifying, and a liminal space. It's like anything could happen. I don't know what the words coming out of my mouth are about to sound like. So the position of the wandering accent in this spread is the position of liminality, of possibility, of what could what could possibly come next. So it's quite a fun thing to have available to us. And then there are two more positions. So the next position is home. So as I say, the Algarve has been my home for the last 8 years, and it really has been home. I speak Portuguese. I have made connections here only really as I start to sort of say my goodbyes or my until the next time, so that I'm starting to realise quite how much of a community I've been part of here, and I feel very, very connected with the landscape. So this has been home, and yet when I go back to York, I realise that really is home for me. And to some extent, home is going to be always going to be both places for me. So even these 8 years in the Algarve, York has been home. And so the position and the spread is that of home. What is this feeling of home? And home, what does it give us? It gives us safety, some familiarity, perhaps some meaning, perhaps some comfort, all of those things. So the position for our reading this week of home encompasses all of those things. And then finally, there's resources. I perhaps had not realised and may not fully realise until it's done quite what a big process moving house internationally is. But it turns out that it is a big process. And I am really, really fortunate to have some good resources available to me. And they come in the form of people, they come in the form of knowledge, they come in the form of structures and infrastructure that's available. They come in the form of my life experience, all of these things. So that's the fifth position of our reading today, resources. What resources are available to you this week? So we'll go ahead and pull some cards. I shall take a sip of water. It is very, very hot here in the Algarve. And I'm reading today with the Tarot of the Moors, which is a lovely deck. It's the only one that I've got out here at the moment. It seemed highly appropriate that this is the last deck I use here, because it is based on the Moors who lived here in Iberia. And of course North Africa. And it's a lovely deck. It's by Gina Thies. So let's go ahead with our reading. I'll invite you to take a deep breath and just ask to receive what you need. And if there is something that you're working on or working with or working through at the moment, and you'd like to invite some insight into that, you can just put your intention into that now. And so the first two cards are what you give up and what you gain. I'm going to pull them both together. So for give up, we've got the 5 of Cups, and for gain, we've got the 10 of Discs. That's a lovely balance actually in those two positions. So firstly, the 5 of Cups, what do you give up? This has got to be perhaps my favourite 5 of Cups of any tarot deck. So the 5 of Cups can often be about sort of, things being knocked over, things being spilled, this place between sorrow, often sorrows of the past, and the optimism of the future. And cups are about the emotions. So this can be a kind of a sad feeling card. What I love about this 5 of Cups is that all the cups are contained within this tray. So even though there might be emotions spilling over, they're also contained within a safe space. And in the position of what you're giving up this week, or what you may be asked to give up, perhaps if you have been in your feelings for a while, perhaps if you have been sort of lamenting, maybe not having enough cups, having too many cups, or or the liquid spilling, or having the wrong kind of liquid in there, or not being able to share the cups with whoever you want, whatever that is, that you might have been feeling and processing. And of course it's valid to process and feel your emotions, but it might be time to give that up a little bit and let that go, and create space for what you gain. And what you gain is the 10 of discs. So that the discs are of the material as the cups are of the emotional, and the 10 of discs is really about stability. So that can be about financial stability, it can be about career stability, it can be about family stability. The discs are also about legacy. So, it can be, being a 10, it's of course at the end of the numbers as well. So it may be that something you've been building is ready to stand on its own and to become a legacy. And here we have this beautiful, beautiful garden here in this kind of enclosed space. So again, you've got structure, you've got space being held. So I talked about that with the tray on the 5 of Cups. So although it may be time to come out of the feelings and into the material and into what's solid and real and really strong, you don't have to give up that structure, that feeling of being contained. So those are the first 2 cards this week. The next card then, the wandering accents, so the liminal spaces and possibilities that might be presented, might become part of this week for you. And we've got here the 9 of Wands. So Wands is about energy work, it's about fire, passion, creativity, and the 9 of Wands is kind of a pause before the end of the Wands cycle. And you can see here is someone who is in a space which is again defined. We have this defined space once again. And so in this position of like wandering accent, what are the possibilities? What it's saying is really that the possibilities come from what's already laid. So this is not an Ace of Wands, it's not a new thing, but actually what's already laid out, any work that you've already done. So for example, although my accent is wandering, it's not going to places that I haven't lived, for example. It's only going on the experience that I have. And so for you this week, for us this week, in terms of this tarot reading, what we have here is that the possibilities are, that there may be many possibilities, there might be some liminality, but it all actually comes from what's gone before, from experience, from things you might have been working with creatively, being the Wands, and structures that are already built or on their way to being built. And the 9 of Wands, the 9s are funny because they often show someone on their own, but they're always in the context of a community. So that's something just to be aware of as well. And then resources. What resources are available? And we've got here, it's another Wands, the Malik of Wands, which is the King of Wands and some other decks. So because this is a position of resources, I am tempted to read this court card as representing a person, whether that's yourself, your own Malik, inner Malik of Wands, or whether that is someone around you. And it could well be both. It could be, especially if it is someone around you and you're drawn to them, you might be drawn to them because you see that same thing in yourself. And the Malik of Wands is someone who is responsive, creative, but also quite established. So the Wands is the suit of creativity, but the Malik, the King, is this position of authority, of being adult, of being mature and expressing that fire. So what that means is that there's less impulsivity. And yeah, this is someone who might be creative and responsive. So not someone who's kind of jumping into things, not even necessarily, trying to make things happen, but who kind of knows what to do when things do happen. And then finally, home. What is home this week? And it's another 9. Look, the 9 of Cups. So as I said earlier, the cups are the emotions, and the 9 of Cups is a card of real emotional contentment. So, your home is where you feel like home. Sounds pretty obvious, doesn't it? But sometimes we don't remember that. And so we see here someone who is may even be creating these cups, who has all these cups available to them. And I love that in the 9 of Cups as well, that again, as I said, with the 9s, you often see one figure. But here is someone who's got plenty of cups. So if someone drops by and wants to drink a glass of water or a cup of tea or whatever it is with them, there are plenty of cups to share that. So there's always that having plenty to share, and particularly on a heart level with the 9 of Cups. So that is your reading for the week. Just to remind you, in summary, we give up the 5 of Cups to gain the 10 of Discs. The possibilities, the wandering, not quite settled, liminal space is the 9 of Wands. Resources, the Malik or King of Wands. And home, the 9 of Cups. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful week ahead. If you've not yet been on the Magician live course or watched the recordings of the Magician, the recordings from last week's module, Manifesting with Tarot, are now live in the Guided by Keziah app. You'll find them either in the tarot practice section or in the live classes and workshops section. So if you're interested in working with tarot to any depth, especially working with yourself and tarot, if you're interested in that subject of manifesting with tarot, you can find those recordings there. And of course, the next module, Tarot and Creativity, takes place on the 15th of July. Thank you so much for your presence this week. I wish you a wonderful week ahead. Take really good care. Bye.